Thank you everyone for joining us for our Friends with FieldView series of webinars. We hope that you have been able to catch our other sessions, and please look forward to future sessions on Friends with FieldView to understand how our FieldView partners are connecting with the FieldView platform. I'm Mindy McDermott, and I'll be the host this morning. And so I'm going to cover the housekeeping, and we want you to be able to ask questions. So Pat, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide. The questions can be presented to our panelists in a couple different ways on this WebEx platform. If you would like, you can put your questions in the chat box, or you can use the Q&A box. Either one, I'll be monitoring the questions, and we'll get those presented to our panelists towards the end of the webinar. We will have plenty of time for questions, so make sure that you get those sent in to us so you can have your pressing issues addressed. And then next slide, please, again. We first need to check in with our friends from the legal department, and so they would like us to remind you that our Friends with FieldView webinars are for informational purposes only, and the Climate Corporation has not vetted and does not endorse any claims that are made by third parties. However, we do have our friends, and we call them our Friends with FieldView from Conservis here, and my co-worker here, Scott Speck, who is a Climate Activation Manager, will get us started with the introductions for today's Friends with FieldView Conservis session. Scott, it's all yours.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mindy, and hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us, hopefully out of the cold today, depending on where you're at around the country. My name is Scott Speck. Like Mindy said, I'm an activation manager for the Climate Corporation, and this morning I'm also joined by the Conservis team, who I'll introduce. Our presenters from Conservis today will be Pat Christie, EVP of Sales and Marketing, and Chuck Paisan, VP of Solutions, and fun fact, are both the founders of Conservis. Other Conservis members that you'll see on the call this afternoon or this morning are Scott Schmidt, VP of Business Development and Partnerships, and Lisa Hines, Senior Marketing Manager for Conservis. And another special that we've got this morning, we are joined by two farmers as well, who will discuss their experiences with Conservis. Kyle Musselman from Indiana and Harold Grawl, if we can get him on here this morning, from Texas. The goal of our Friends with FieldView series is to provide general awareness of the platform partners that we have integrated with Climate, both to yourselves and dealers of Climate FieldView, while providing an opportunity to learn more about the important field teams available, as well as offers that are tailored specifically to FieldView customers that you'll hear at the end of the presentation if you have interest in these partner solutions. Today, as Mindy and I mentioned, we have our friends on from Conservis to discuss how to utilize agronomic and economic data to drive profitable decisions. And throughout the next few weeks, you'll also see a few new Friends with FieldView sessions as we continue with additional partners. If you don't know about them, Conservis provides farmers with the financial insights to help better understand profitability by utilizing integrations with existing data that has been collected, such as with your FieldView account. Through reports, analytics, and map-based layers, Conservis customers can get a more thorough understanding of how the decisions they are making impact their bottom line. Thanks again for joining us, and as Mindy mentioned, please ask questions as we go along. But for me, I'll pass it over to the friends from Conservis now, and Pat, it is all yours.
Well, hey, Scott, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, as always. Very friendly to be here with our climate partners. Well, here's an agenda for today. We're going to make this exciting because the most important part of this agenda is actually hearing directly from farmers why what we're doing together matters. But we're going to start with things we're hearing from farmers, the problems that are really worth solving. Why us? What is Climate, FieldView, and Conservis? How does this really answer some of the things that Scott just mentioned, like profitability analysis and really getting a control on decision making in a meaningful way? And then a little background on Conservis. There's a lot of folks that have not heard about us. We've been around for a while, but really an introduction to why we are here. And then my favorite part is the juice worth the squeeze? All of us are dealing with data systems in our lives. Sometimes they add value, sometimes they don't. We all have hopes for what they'll do, and to really have an open and honest conversation about how are these things bringing value to our grower clients and to the growers that are moving into this direction. And then we have an offer we're going to talk about, which is really a way to, how can we help you see your information an offer to take some of your data and put it to work in a way that you can see what's possible. So that's the agenda for today. And let's start with things we're hearing. The great thing about a partnership with Climate, beyond the capabilities we're bringing, is together we're sorting through how to solve the problems that our farmers are asking to be solved, right? It can't be done in a silo. How do we really help solve these? We've got a volatile market, good and bad. So how do you start to get your cost of production under control? How do you start to see, your revenue that you booked against the unbooked revenue, so you can start to make better marketing decisions based on your production capabilities? Regulatory pressure. I think we're seeing that as an opportunity and a cost, whether it be traceability for a new crop, carbon. A lot of discussion around carbon as a new opportunity for cash from farming. But anyway, there's a lot of things that we're hearing, and the way that we think about solving them is really starting to bring the agronomic and field-centric decision-making, like Climate, to the business side of the house. And most of the business side, and hopefully all of you will resonate with this, you're using Excel sheets, QuickBooks, accounting systems. Most of that is after the fact. And then most of your agronomic tools are kind of in the field at the moment. How do you bridge that gap and really start to bring an integrated view to connecting the dots at the crop level, the field level, the zone level, and even at the highest level of the farm enterprise? That's what we're doing together. So specifically, let's talk about how this works. So we seamlessly are able to take your climate data. So Conservis is a cloud-based system, and we can link the information in climate automatically into Conservis. So we'll take those as applied records for all the field information that's in climate, organize it. So collect, cleanse, and organize. How do you get that quality data in one place? And from there, we can start to drive field reporting, whether it be for crop insurance, cost of production, FSA reporting, and also into cost and profit analytics. So one place to connect your information, cleanse, collect, and organize so you can drive real information for your farm. So maybe a little background on who we are. We started 10 years ago, really not focused on farm management. It was actually farmers who found us and said, could you help us build a business system for the farm? We have groups around the farm, the people we buy from, the people we sell to, who are experiencing these technological opportunities that we don't have. Would you help us solve for the business of the farm? And that's what we did. So we actually did not come to it as a farmer. We did not come to it with a presupposed view on what needs to be done. We listened and worked with, and continue to listen and work with our farm clients to build what they want. And what they want are exactly the things you want, right? Solving real problems that matter. It's got to solve a problem that matters. It's got to be easy to use. And you have to have trust that the partner's there for you for the long haul. Some of the things we're solving for: how do my practices create an ROI? Am I getting the most out of every acre? Should I rent this field again? I mean, what am I paying on a per acre price relative to my performance? And if you have one field, it's easy to sort through. If you have 10 fields, you can maybe kind of sort through it. When you start to have 20 fields or 30 fields and different business relationships, how do you really sort for that and make that process effective, timely, and give confidence that you have good data organized in one place? It is all about bringing that information together. Since we've been doing this for a while, we've actually experienced a wide variety of practices. Every farm has their own unique way of running their business. So one system has to be highly configurable to meet your needs and your farm. And because we've been at this for 10 years, we've actually, and not only 10 years, but 10 years across a wide array of client types. 500-acre commodity crop grower all the way to a multi-farm enterprise in Australia. It's the same system that we have for everybody. We're just able to configure it for the way that you farm. We're also in permanent crops, which, the nice thing about permanent crops is it's not so much, it's obviously very different than commodity crops, but more and more of the food safety and compliance requirements in the permanent space are coming into cropping. So we're taking a lot of our experience there and bringing that together for you. And we only work with farmers. So what is it that we do? So, again, collecting all this information, organizing it, presenting it into a business system. It looks like financial planning, operational planning, financial budgeting, purchasing and inventory management, all of your production activities, from picking rocks to spraying chemistry to planting to harvest, and all of the harvest, meaning every load from the combine to a grain cart to inventory all the way to commercial settlement. And because we present these things in a unified system, you can put data in one place and it will carry through everywhere. Again, how do you get the most out of a common system utilizing data, information? Now, not every farmer wants every part of this, which is great because we've also made it easy to provide just what you want when you need it. It's the business of the farm. Some examples of the capabilities around operational reporting. We make it easy to organize because we have your field activities, because we have your business organized in this one system. An FSA report is a click of the button. A spray or chemistry, crop protection report, click of the button, and a level of detail that you need, whether it be for costing, compliance, partner management, downstream, click of a button. And then crop insurance reporting and crop insurance claims. This is just a selection of some of the things that we can do. And even more importantly today, it's helped me understand where I'm making money, if I'm making money, by which field. I want to see it over time. I want to see it by crop. I want to understand if my agronomic decision made sense. I want to understand if my equipment costing is making sense by crop. Simple tools that bring all this information together so you can see this in season. You can do a dissection after the season. You can look at it in season. And with our planning, you can even start to forecast where you want to be. With climate, because we're able to get this machine level geospatial data, the level of detail we're able to get, what we can do, again, we seamlessly integrate with climate. That information comes into Conservis, and we'll associate the price that you paid for goods with the material that was used and create a cost and profit map. So seamlessly connecting yield, think about this, traditional yield data on the left side to what is now a complete cost map, which would include a variety of layers. Your planting, your fertilization, your chemistry, even your harvest costs in one place. So how do our farmers get on board? We've designed our service because we are a service enabled with technology. We have a customer success team that's dedicated to helping our farmers get on a system, get organized and configured, and get trained and work alongside our farmers year after year to get the most out of their investment in technology and data. We start by helping getting farmers organized so that they can begin to optimize and improve. We also have farmers that show up on the far right that are, really, really deeply committed to data systems. They're looking for the next advancement in what's possible. So we work with all farms of all types, no matter where they are in their journey. And because of that, we've actually built products that marry to that journey. We can start with an organizational concept. Let's just get your field records organized, all the way to advanced analytics and in-season cash flow and underwriting capabilities to work with your lender or credit facilitator. And most importantly, we believe that the technology is only as good as the people who stand behind it. We are a people-first business. We are dedicated to your success. We not only have technology, but we have we have folks that are working in our company that came from a farm. We're not coming to you as a technology group asking what a farm does. We've learned how to work with you, and that's our commitment to you. And so because of that, we've made it easy for you to get on a platform like ours. We've made it easy for you to get more out of climate together. And we do that by taking the time to properly configure and train and organize for success. So with that, I'd like to actually get out of the Conservis background and get into the real conversation, which is, farmers who are really putting technology to work to think about how they manage their business, the insights they're able to accomplish, and where they want to go with their business and their data as they look to the future. And so we've got, I think, was Harold able to join?
We are still working with Harold to get him connected. So maybe if we could just work with Kyle first, and we'll come back to Harold when we get him on.
Well, Harold, unfortunately, Harold is in Texas, so hopefully he's doing okay. It's been a lot of weather tragedy down there. So Kyle, welcome, Kyle. Good to see you.
Hello. Glad we could join you.
Another video call. One of these days, I'll see you again in person. So Kyle, maybe if you wouldn't mind, maybe just start with give us a background on your farm and maybe even how you think about using climate and Conservis, and we'll start there.
Yeah. So me and my wife farm in north central Indiana alongside my parents who will help us out on the farm, and got a couple employees. But we kind of main thing is row crops of corn and soybeans along with some wheat, and we have a hog operation as well. Unique part about our business is we do quite a bit of custom farming for this part of the country and provide some farm management services for some farmers to help plan their crop out, and the harvesting and planting and some spraying. And so we have been using FieldView since 2014. We bought some new precision planting equipment, and that's back when FieldView was their mapping platform for planting. And then we joined Conservis in the beginning of 2018. And we've been using the two platforms together ever since. That was one of the main things that brought us to Conservis, was the fact that it worked via the cloud with FieldView to save some time and try to gain more accurate data entry.
Awesome. I mean, I think I'm going to kind of, just for fun a little bit, 2015, 2016, 2017, I mean, you've always been, kind of on that frontier of looking for what's next and how do you get more out of every dollar you spend. And I mean, would it be fair to say what was possible then? And then as you came into 2018, like, when you think back on how much things have changed and how much easier things are starting to get in terms of bringing things together. Do you have any views on kind of what you've experienced over time and how you see that going forward as you think about your farm?
Yeah, it's been a learning process. We're still learning in that regard. Things are ever changing in the ag world, and especially with all the new technologies that come. But prior to joining Conservis, we were collecting quite a bit of data in different forms. And I guess I was fortunate that my previous generations here on the farm adapted that very early. So we were starting to collect yield data on the combines back in 1997. So I've always had a amount of data to look at and analyze. The problem was trying to find the right platform to view it in and do that efficiently. In the beginning, we were all John Deere at the time, and so we were using John Deere's programs. Well, then slowly we started getting equipment that wasn't John Deere. And the trouble, then we started having the problems of how do we get this I can't view this non-John Deere data in John Deere programs. So we looked at other platforms, and the struggle was real of finding the time and learning how to import data from all these different companies into a platform. And this was a lot of frustration, and a lot of work went into it, and we're having a really hard time. We had the beginning information, and we kind of in our head saw the destination at the end of the road map, and we just never could get to our destination. It didn't seem like no matter how much time we put into the program or even at the time, we just never ended up with the end results. And that's one thing that's been great about the pairing of FieldView and Conservis together. Is FieldView is great at collecting the data out in the field with a variety of different equipment platforms, and then bring it all in one platform to look at no matter what your color of equipment is. And then Conservis does a great job of analyzing that data from the machine, bringing it into dollars and cents numbers.
Appreciate that. So maybe for fun, talk about what was it like to try and get your team to really going from some digital systems to really having a pretty big toolkit of capability. Was it hard to get your family members, your team members? Talk about that.
Yeah, so there was a variety of opinions when we first brought this on. I like to learn about new technology, and I'm always up for learning something new. And guys around the farm say that I'm the IT department. I don't know that I quite agree with that, but so I get harassed sometimes about new things. We got to do this, and what's Kyle going to try to do this year, and this and that. And when we first came with Conservis, going to be coming out to the farm and training us on how to use this program, there was a few eye rolls, and people were unsure of it. And so we went through the training, and I'm like, man, I don't know if we're really going to like this. And by the end of the first year, they've come to really like it. It's simple. We've been able to keep the same system all along instead of trying different systems. One year it's a group text message. Next year we're buying a printer in the grain cart and taking this record here and taking the record there. And they can sit on their phones, enter almost everything on especially the main place we use the phones is in the harvest side of Conservis. So we have FieldView on both the combines, collecting data out in the field. And then Conservis allows us to manually let the truck drivers enter the information while they're dumping the grain, where it's going. And then we're able to bring the two programs' information together and make sure everything aligns. Combines are calibrated correctly. And if not, we're able to recalibrate the maps so we have accurate information. And so now it's to the point, like I said, they really enjoy it. They like to have a contest each year to see who ends up with the most loads entered on their phone to get the big super trucker award for the year. So it's been good to see that we brought technology along. People are willing to use, and then at the end they're like, man, this is so easy. I just get on my phone, do a couple clicks, it's done. I don't have to worry about losing paper, this and that. And we've slowly been trying to find other areas to use some of the technologies of Conservis, as far as like the work orders and field plans. And originally I thought, we're not a big enough operation. We taught, I'm out there in the field pretty much every day with the guys, and we have conversations in the morning, and I need to put on what the plan is today for what we're going to go spray or plant. And what I found is, as we slowly started using that, the guys really like to know, here's what plan A is for the day, instead of wondering what order of fields they like to go to or what was I supposed to be doing. And so we've kind of had to go back and try to say, hey, do we want to try to implement this more, or is it going to bring more? But it's been great that as a whole team, everybody's enjoyed using both really the FieldView and the Conservis. And even on the FieldView side, originally when we started putting iPads in all the equipment, it was, man, we got another screen we got to pay attention to in the cab. Can't we just drive the tractors or the combine? And after that first planting season of every planter and tractor having an iPad in it, now it's like, okay, don't take my iPad. I really like having that in there. It's a different viewpoint. Or we can just have the actual map, what we're mapping on the iPad and use the tractor monitors for all informational purposes and guidance studies. So, been a good adjustment on both platforms.
And are you, and because you've kind of got the team using it, you're using it, I mean, have you, like with zone economics, have you started to really analyze your farm differently now that you have these things working together?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out the exact power that platform has, but it's been kind of eye-opening how simple it can be to analyze everything with having FieldView on all the equipment out in the field applying products. It makes it very simple to, as long as the operators are entering the product they're using, the correct rate they're putting it on. We just go out and do one pass of spraying a fungicide or extra fertilizer out in the field. Even simple things as switching hybrids in the planting. You know, it used to be if you were the guy that planted a test plot where you tried something different, if you weren't the guy in the combine where you forgot to tell somebody, hey, there's an area out there that I'm doing check. If you weren't in the combine, you never really got a great glimpse of how that affected you. And now with FieldView mapping everything and coming into Conservis, zone economics, it makes it very simple to figure out, hey, is this, you know, as we try, each year we do a new trial or two or test a couple new products out in the field. And it makes it really easy to tell the effect that had on our bottom line. Things as such as a couple of years ago, we tried putting some extra fertilizer on some soybeans and just did some strips out in the field. And when we just look at the yield map and try to analyze that, at times it's like, okay, we got a bushel here, maybe 2 bushel there, or this one was 1 or 2 bushels less. As soon as we pulled up that zone economics due to the cost of that fertilizer pass, it was just everywhere we went sprayed, it was just red lines here, red lines there. And instantly it's like, oh, that didn't pay at all. And it just was so much, you know, most of an afternoon trying to analyze a yield map. And within 10 seconds of clicking on the zone economics, it's like, that didn't pay at all. We've seen the same thing on the seed side, just different traits of the seed. You can take the same variety and adding or subtracting traits and starting to look at the impact of that. Fungicide's a big one. Then fertilizer rates, trying to put on different fertilizer rates and seed rates. And so this is a very good visual. As soon as you pull up a map, within 15 seconds, you can pick out, man, that area, there's a lot of red over there. Or over here, hey, there's green streaks everywhere. Now let's dive into what is causing the green streaks, and that, because that's where you're making more money.
It's actually, I mean, it's just kind of amazing to me, right? How these systems are starting to talk to each other, because having been at this long enough and knowing how hard it was not that long ago to get really good machine information that you could actually try to, you know, one thing was to get it. Another thing was to actually be, you know, to do something with it, you know, not just have a colored map, but how do you actually dig in? And that's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, so where do you think you go next? I mean, how, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, you kind of went from paper systems, yield maps to climate, you know, where does this bring you? What are you hoping to get out of this as you look forward?
Well, that's a good question. I guess even whether it's FieldView or Conservis, any new program you pick up with the wide scope of what you can do with these programs, it takes a little bit of time to figure it out. And in the first year, you're just really trying to figure out how do these programs, how do they fit your operation? And by the second year, you know, if you want to change your plan or you had some issues and we need to approach it differently, you get to implement those on the second year. Now that we're in our third year, it's like, okay, we found these are how these systems fit our farm. So really focusing on to make sure everything's accurate, set up the way we want. And then you can really start diving into field by field level and analyzing things. And the more you get comfortable with these programs, you start finding the more power they have. And just trying to use each program to its full potential, I guess, would be the first goal.
Makes sense. And if you were advising, someone in your peer group or another farmer that, was saying, hey, Kyle, how should I think about this? I mean, that's one really good. Do you have any other advice, like how to think about what, who should I pick? How should I think about it? What should I expect?
Yeah, I don't know. When we went into, I guess one thing that was really hard is you start looking at companies that take data and spit out information and analyze in different capacities depending on the company. Was you got to try to picture the end map. What does the end goal look like? And that makes it hard because you don't know how to use the program necessarily. So you're trying to dive in deeper and deeper because you know that you're going to have a lot of time and money invested just learning these programs. And so I guess a couple things. One was we wanted something affordable. The price. The one thing we were finding out is as a farmer, you naturally want to save money and buy if there's a cheaper option, we want to go that route. And there's a lot of frustration that came along with some of the cheaper programs we were trying, and they were never quite reaching the potential of what we were wanting out of them, and the support wasn't there. So price, that doesn't necessarily mean the cheapest, but kind of I guess I wanted the most bang for the buck, most value, and then I wanted something that was dependable, that did what they claimed it was going to do. And then the third thing was ease of use. And I would say both these, and then support, the fourth thing. And both of these platforms provide all of those. And as far as Conservis, I mean, I've never worked with a company that provides the level of service and support you guys do. And that's very, very important. And now that we've been using the program for a couple of years, that price we pay, it's like, okay, I can start dividing that up. And we're paying so much for the actual program, and so much of that I kind of view as support because we've left like one voicemail in 3 years. So the fact that you can pick up that phone and somebody's answering and they understand what's going on, you don't have to spend a long time explaining what we're trying to do on the farm or why we need this question answered. That's been a very valuable asset in service and our operation.
Well, I mean, we again, listening to our farmers, we learned early that, there's been a kind of a pile of promises made, not kept with some of these technologies. And, you really have to be there to get through, to be your supporting. I mean, we're here to support you. We really want, we believe in that. And I think the nice thing is Climate does too, right? It's Climate and Conservis. We're both committed to having people in the field working with you to get the most out of every piece of technology you bring together. So it's
another nice part about the partnership with FieldView and Conservis is we're using multiple platforms on the farm. You don't want two platforms that have the same strengths and two platforms that have the same weaknesses. And that's what's great about FieldView and Conservis is their strengths and weaknesses are almost complete opposite. And so with FieldView, I can pull up information right now of how many acres are planted, how many acres are harvested, what hybrid yielded the best, what soil type did the best. I can pull that up right now on my phone out in the field, but I can't see the dollars and cents. In the office, bam, right there's all the dollars and cents of all the stuff that's on the phone. And then FieldView is great at mapping. Conservis doesn't really do much mapping, but they're great at analyzing the numbers side. And so it's really almost perfect pairing of the two together as far as strengths and
weaknesses. Yep. Peanut butter and chocolate.
Hey, Pat, I think we have figured a workaround to get Harold online here this morning. So, Harold, if you wouldn't mind jumping in here. Thanks for the great comments, Kyle. You've been doing a great job. But I did want to let you guys know that we do have Harold on if you want him to jump in here.
Harold, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, here we go.
Welcome.
really, folks, things really aren't that bad here in all of Texas. So I appreciate your concern. I heard Patrick make some comments early on, but we're fine. We're surviving the deep freeze down here.
Well, that's good to hear, because the what we see on the news is really, our heart goes out. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing good. Well, hey, thanks for joining. Would you mind, Harold, maybe give a little background on yourself and your farm?
I'm a first-generation farmer originally from El Paso, Texas. Went to school at West Texas University in Canyon, and that's how I landed up in Dumas, where I am now. Got here in 1970 and worked for some very smart elderly couple, Joan and Dale Coleman. She was a PhD in management from the University of Chicago, and he had his master's in economics from University of Indiana. And so both of them very meticulous record keepers. So they passed that skill set down to me, and I've maintained that over the years now. This is going to be my 42nd crop. And right now we're just in the process of all this data that I've collected, moving it into Conservis so this next generation can use it more quickly and hopefully more efficiently and more effectively than I've done over the years. So record keeping isn't something new for us. Dale was broke things down. His cost accounting was impeccable. I've got stacks and stacks of old spreadsheets of his where he would break stuff down into cost per bushel on each individual input: gasoline, natural gas, fertilizer, any input that was involved in the production function. He would break this down in cost per bushel, because he was a firm believer in sometimes you have to spend money to make money. So it wasn't all about reducing your cost per acre, but reducing your cost per unit produced. So I have a good background in that, and right now, like I said, we're just in the process of getting it in a form that is usable and getting ready for this next generation.
And it sounds like, digital tools are an important part of that. What brought you to climate, and maybe climate and Conservis?
Well, we got involved with climate, I believe, first, and I think that was before 2010. We were using precision planning technology at the time, and I don't remember exactly what year that started syncing up with climate, and I believe it was before 2010, and that has just kind of evolved over the years to where we are now. And my involvement with Conservis, I met a man named, I think John Mikowski was his name. I'm not sure if he's with you or not anymore. Yeah. But
Jack Mikowski, he's still with us, you bet. Yeah.
He showed up here, I think it was before harvest somewhere. I couldn't exactly remember when. And at that time, he was really just promoting our your grain inventory system. And with much reluctance, I got involved with that, and that's been, one of the best decisions we ever made, because that was our primary relationship with Conservis for a long time until it's evolved to where we are now. And I think that was back in 2013, 2014.
I love that. I love the reluctance. So we had to twist your arm to give us a shot. That's awesome.
Well, I think
Jack's that way.
When you have salesmen show up, they're always reluctant to get too involved with what they're selling. But John was very good at explaining what you guys did and what been our operation, and so I commend him. You all ought to commend him for where we are with you guys, our relationship now.
Well, appreciate that. Again, I think all of us, Climate Conservis, we're really trying to solve problems that you care about, not just sell you things that you don't need, right? That's the heart of what we're doing together. So I think you made a couple of great points. You've been on this journey for a while. starting, long 10 plus years ago on, farm digitization. I mean, and you're talking about the future. So could you give us a little more on how you're thinking about these systems working together and what that means for your next generation?
Well, to back up a little bit, give you a little bit of history, and I'm not sure where we are in the questions, but technology has always been very important to me. That was handed down to me from the Colemans. They thought that, you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, and so you can't stay the same. So he was always looking for new ways that we needed to get involved with. And so we evolved from paper type spreadsheets to me getting involved with using a desktop computer, floppies, spreadsheets over the years, and that's where we've kept most of our data. And along the way, as we all know, farming is just a very challenging business to be involved with. And we went through the 80s and the 90s and very difficult times in each one of those decades. And so we're always looking for ways to maximize profit, I should say, and maximize profit. We're an irrigated farm, and when dealing with a finite resource like water, and I know in some areas of the country they're dealing with too much, and in our case we're dealing with not enough. So everything evolves around irrigation, and so we're always looking to maximize profit for every inch of water that we pump. And so several years ago, a group named Growers approached us, and we had done some variable rate planning and variable rate fertilizer applications throughout the year. In the 2000s sometime, I'd have to go, and just didn't see that it was a lot of benefit to it. It was great that we had these controllers that could do all these great things, but we couldn't tell that it was doing anything to the bottom line that we could identify. We had no way of putting a value on each one of these zones that we created. I mean, it was great that we could do it, but when you added all this stuff up, all we were doing is just redistributing fertilizer, redistributing plant populations. And when you compared it to some of the stuff that we weren't utilizing these technologies, there just we weren't adding anything really to our bottom line. So along came a company named Growers, and we got hooked up with them. We've been involved with them for 5 or 6 years now, and they kind of took that technology to the next level. They came out and we mapped fields. We compared those maps with yield data that we'd collected over the years, recreated zones. They wrote prescriptions, and we followed all their recommendations. And again, at the same time, we didn't see a lot of added benefit to the bottom line. So what we realized is we needed to be a little bit more involved in in every aspect, along yield goals per zone, to amount of fertility per zone, to plant populations per zone. At the same time, we're dealing with new hybrids every year that we don't have a lot of information on. So it's been quite a learning process. So after working with them for several years, and Conservis adopted their zone type, where they were marrying climate with Conservis. When those two got together, we thought, okay, this is something we could probably do ourselves, and now we can put a value on what we're doing. And so we've been doing that for the last couple of years. Again, we still have a lot to learn. I think the direction that we're going to go from this point on is we have to somehow marry the variable rate things that we can do variable rating and marry our irrigation with that. And so we're in the process now of, since we don't have a true variable rate center pivot, we're trying to get this stuff so we can zone farm and using sectors. Because this is great that we can variable rate all these things, but irrigation is the primary component. So if we can identify zones in the field under a center pivot that have higher yielding capabilities, we need to be able to irrigate accordingly. So that's kind of the next step for us. It may be something that Conservis may want to get involved with. I'm not sure. I know there's I've visited some others that are utilizing some other people, other companies, and they're kind of working in that direction. So that's kind of where we are now. Again, it's a huge learning process for us, but we're positive. We just think this is the direction we need to go.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a couple of things that I think are really important. This continuous evolution of new capabilities, right? Like, how do you go from, flat rate to precision? Now it's precision to profit analysis, profit analysis that isn't just the seed population and the genetics, but it's actually your irrigation costs, and then variable rate irrigation. And I would add, land rents, other costs that you really need to understand to get a complete view on profit, right? It's not just the field. It's an important part, but it's not just the field. So I Harold, appreciate that. That's any advice for someone who's thinking about, because you've been on this journey, any advice for someone that's maybe new thinking about this? Maybe they're a climate user, maybe they're not. Would you say, what would you give them for some free advice?
I would recommend they do their due diligence, visit with people that are using some of these other services and compare them. One of the biggest, one of the major things we like about Conservis is the service, and that it's impeccable. And so for someone like me who's a little bit challenged technology-wise, I need lots of help. Of course, I've got some young people now that are giving me lots of help along the way, but that's so important. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. I know it's very competitive, but do your due diligence and ask people, talk to people. Also, you want somebody on time like you guys have, and also who are adapting and changing, not change to just for the sake of changing, but listening to producers and what they need, and being very proactive in the needs of what we're doing.
Great advice. Really appreciate the compliment too. Thank you, Harold. Now we're coming up. We're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, so I think, Mindy, should we stop for some Q&A?
Absolutely. We do have some questions that have come in, so it would be great to address those. Folks, if you have questions, I think Harold and Kyle might even be willing to answer some questions. I don't want to put both of you on the spot, but I just did. But if you want to answer any of these questions too, you certainly can jump in. So I'll just start out. The first one, how do I connect my FieldView data to my Conservis account, or vice versa? How do I connect the two platforms?
Do you want me to take a stab at that, Kyle? You want to answer it, or?
Either way.
All right. Well, I mean, it's really easy, because what we've done is we've used the login that you have for climate. You come into Conservis, and there's one tab that says integrations, and you literally log in through Conservis into climate, and it will show up with all of your fields and activities, and we just link those into the Conservis database. So it's a really, and once they're linked, the information will automatically come into Conservis. So it's a one-time connector, and then it's an automatic, the data moves automatically into Conservis and presents itself. Very seamless.
Perfect. Okay, so Kyle and Harold, you guys are on the payroll now, so to speak, because questions are coming in to you guys as well. So first off, how do you handle and get insights on land costs and production costs across ground that may be rented or owned?
Okay, can you say it one more time?
Absolutely. Basically, they're wanting to know how you handle land costs for ground that you may be working with a landowner or a landlord on. How do you handle those costs within perhaps Conservis, and how do you get insights on that to know, your ROI?
Well, as the land cost is different for fields you might own or cash rent or even rented or lease, the advantage of these programs coming together is that we're applying products out in the field with climate, and they come into Conservis, and it starts logging the cost of the fertilizer and seeds. All the different processes we do to a field, or maybe you want to put some tile cost in, or like for us, we got lots of rocks, spend more time picking rocks in some fields than others. Then at the end, the analytical side of Conservis starts letting you see field by field and comparing which ones you're making money on, which ones you aren't. As you start getting several years worth of that information put together, you can go back and start seeing, maybe farm number 67 is on the bottom end every year. And you got to start diving into field 67 and what costs can we do better on, or can we improve? And maybe it is you need a cheaper land cost on that one, or maybe you just have to let that one go. Maybe some that are doing well, the opportunity presents itself that you're able to purchase that. You can start seeing, hey, we can go up to this amount per year and still be all right. This field's 10% above our average every year, 20%.
And I'll just add to that, we also have a capability in Conservis where you can capture all your land agreements. So you can capture the land agreement and then the costs, the payments associated with it. So that can be incorporated. If you don't use it, that's fine. If you do use it, it can be incorporated into your profit and cost analysis. So it's both sides, having one place to contain it, and then also being able to look at all your activities and understand where you're performing the best.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay. This user or participant here wants to know, Harold and Kyle, if you are using the zone economics in Conservis. So Harold, will have you answer first, and then Kyle will come back to you.
Yes, we are. We're using the zone economics. That was one of the reasons why we furthered our subscription with Conservis, because they started offering that. Like I said, initially we were just using the grain inventory system, and then when they started offering the zone capabilities, that was kind of the missing component for us. Now we were able to marry, our input costs and our yields and determine a true ROI per zone in the field. I mean, again, this is great, and I can't emphasize this enough. It's great that we have these capabilities to be able to do these things, but if they're not making money, all they are is just good entertainment. So we're just very. That's something that we have to make sure that it's working for us. That it's adding something to the bottom line, and I'm convinced it will. But we're just, we're not quite there yet. We're still, analyzing this stuff and getting things, further set up with Conservis to be able to take advantage of all the capabilities.
We use zone economics as well, and learning the power of what all we can do there and making some changes along the way. But one thing that's been great for us is we try new products or trials on a small amount of acreage to see if it's something we want to implement across the farm. It's a very quick way to figure out whether the new products or new rates of products, how it impacted your bottom line. And it's very quick that we, within 15, 20 seconds of opening up zone economics map, colors started popping out. Start going back and figuring out why those colors pop out in certain areas.
Get those exceptions. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. So next question, what are some of the biggest open questions about your field activities that you hope to learn and change in the 2021 crop year. So we'll go Kyle, then Harold on this one.
Yeah, I'm assuming he can buy field activity stuff for actually products and passes we're making out in the field. I guess mine is probably some of the starter options we can put on crops. And as technology with farm equipment and data processing advances, one of our goals is trying to reduce the amount of inputs we use to grow a bushel of corn or soybeans. And we've started banding more nutrients right in the row where we're planting the crop to try to minimize the amount of inputs we're having to buy while maybe still maintaining the same yield. Or in some cases, we can have a little bit less yield, but actually make more profit. And so that's one area we're working on, is trying to reduce, see how far we can start reducing some of these inputs without depleting any of the soils of nutrients, but at the same time not giving up yield to try to be as efficient as we can with our resources.
Harold, do you have anything to add to that? I can repeat the question too.
I think I understand the question. Our goal is, to be able to produce to that diminishing return for each zone that we've established out in our field. And so, and there's a lot of things going into that. I mean, there's, of course, weather plays into that, and we probably have a little bit more control with our irrigation, that we can control those things, or we will in the future. But it's like, okay, how much fertilizer just trying to identify the full yield capability or net profit capability for every zone, because that's why we're doing this. If I have a particular part in my field produce 300 bushel corn, I want to do it. And what kind of inputs is it going to take to be able to do that? So manipulating these things has been a learning process for us, but that's what we're trying to achieve. One of our biggest challenges is water holding capacity, because we don't have the irrigation capacity anymore to keep up with the demand during the growing season. So we're trying to identify full capabilities of each zone out there and just swinging for the fence until it's no longer profitable, if that makes any sense to anybody. But it's all about that law of diminishing return per zone and trying to figure what that is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pat, I'd like to hand it back to you, because you have some exciting information to pass on yet about an offer that Conservis has right now. So we'll pass it back to you. If you have questions, you can continue to send those in, and we can get those on the recording, and then they will be on our YouTube channel when we get this recording posted there.
Well, thank you very much. What we would like to do is offer, if you have climate data, we'd like to show you how that could be presented with zone economics. So we have a kind of an assessment clinic. Let's take 5 of your fields. Let's look at your planting chemistry, yield information from last year, and let's put them through Conservis and show you how that can reveal insights or not. I mean, this is an opportunity to put your data to work. And so it's before the planting season really kicks off. So we've got this open to March 31st. If you're interested, contact Conservis. You can go to the website, conservisag.ag, and then there's a climate link that you can register. But let's take some of your climate data and show you how it can be transformed into profit analysis. That's our offer. And hopefully through that process, it not only shows how valuable your climate information is, but it shows you where this could go. And the only thing I'd like to potentially end here with, because I know we're actually past the hour, a couple of key takeaways, right? We went through a lot of information. Kyle and Harold, thank you so much. I mean, there's nothing more valuable than real farmers getting usefulness out of these systems. It's not what we say, it's what you say. But focus on yield and profit, right? Let's really bring those things together. Together we mean business. And this notion of business, it's hopefully that makes sense. It's taking all of this data and putting it into dollars and cents. Let's make it real at the business level. And if you're interested, let's talk. Let's talk. And we're happy to take your data from climate and show you what's possible. And that's our story.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pat, and as well, Harold and Kyle and the other folks from Conservis that are on the line. Scott, I'm going to pass it to you to close out our webinar. And thank you so much, folks, for hanging with us for a little bit of overtime.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mindy. And thank you to the panel and presenters, Pat, Harold, and Kyle. That was great information. I hope everybody could get some insight into some of the things that Conservis can do and how there's some really neat opportunities to both connect and utilize the data that you're collecting to help make decisions and really connect that agronomic and economic information. Just as a reminder, don't hesitate to reach out to us on the climate team for all things FieldView, as well as the Conservis team with any questions on their product or the offering that Pat just looked at here this morning. Another reminder is to please join us next week on Thursday, same time, same place, where our friends from Fluorosat will be discussing their integration with FieldView from their imagery products and their analytics engine for alerting and reporting on fields. Thanks again, everyone, for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
As we conclude this session of the Friends with FieldView webinar, I want to remind you of the Climate Corporation's data privacy policy. Your permission is required. We do not share customer data with third parties without your consent. Third-party platform or agronomic partners will not see your data unless you choose to share or link your accounts with them. FieldView customers are in the driver's seat regarding their data. For more on our commitment to data privacy, see our website, climate.com/data-privacy for more information.